Farmweek is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farmweek, it's a feature story edition of our show. You'll see how the nation's biggest ethanol supplier is building a new plant in Iowa. It will still use corn to make ethanol, but it won't use the kernels. It will use the cellulose found in the corn cobs, leaves, and stalks.
In Southern gardening, the changing of the seasons. Find out how to enjoy your landscape when warm turns to winter.
The Farm Aid Concert celebrated its 25th year in 2010. It started back in the 1980s when the nation's farm economy was in shambles.
I had heard some rumors in Texas about some of the farmers and ranchers having a rough time, and I asked some of my friends around who were ranchers, farmers, and they said, well, it's really bad in the Midwest. It hadn't really got that bad here yet, but it's on the way. So we started talking about what we might do and call some attention to it and see if we could help the situation in some way.
Good day, everyone, and Merry Christmas. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week and a Merry Christmas to you. We hope you're having a good holiday season.
Well, Artis, today we have an all-feature story version of our show. Making ethanol from the starch in corn kernels is controversial. Supporters say ethanol is the only viable way to reduce American dependence on unstable sources of foreign oil. A key producer is embracing the next generation of ethanol production by converting corn cobs, leaves, and stalks into fuel. Known as Corn Stover, Market to Market's David Miller says that the company is building a commercial-scale plant in Iowa.
According to ethanol proponents, it will not be possible to meet the 36 billion gallon renewable fuels production mandate relying solely on corn-based ethanol. With that in mind, the energy bill specifies 16 billion gallons must come from advanced biofuels. Feedstocks for these advanced biofuels are expected to include municipal solid waste, wood chips, wheat straw, switchgrass, and corn stover. Leading the way to satisfy RFS2 is the world's largest single producer of ethanol, POET. Through Project Liberty, POET's Advanced Biofuels program, the ethanol giant plans to produce or assist others in the production of 3.5 billion gallons of cellulosic ethanol annually by 2022. Mike Roth is Director of Biomass for POET.
It's a brand new industry within ethanol, which is relatively new, being about 20 years old. We still call ethanol a very immature industry. There's still a lot to learn and a lot of efficiencies to be gained. And this is adding a whole new component to it that really changes the game for our company, for our country.
To get the ball rolling, POET opened a cellulosic biofuels pilot plant at its Scotland, South Dakota facility in 2008. Producing just a few thousand gallons each year, POET Scotland has been a test bed for advanced biofuels development. USDA research shows 1.3 billion dry tons of cellulosic biomass is currently available in the United States. According to POET, that's enough to produce more than 1/3 of the fuel used by American drivers. After several $1 million in research and development, POET has begun work on its full-scale cellulosic plant in the northwestern Iowa town of Emmitsburg. Referred to as a bolt-on facility, the biomass plant will be located on the same grounds as the company's conventional starch plant. Ethanol production at the Advanced Biofuels operation is expected to begin in 2012. Poet plans to use more than 300,000 tons of corn stalks, cobs, and leaves to make 25 million gallons of cellulosic ethanol annually. This will increase the total output of the Emmitsburg facility to 75 million gallons per year.
We're trying to stay away from the lower stalk and any dirt that the farmer may pick up. We don't want that. But anything from the ear up, we'll take it.
Biogas released by Project Liberty's enzymatic process will be used to power both the biomass facility and the nearby starch plant. Byproducts from the anaerobic digesters are expected to be used as fuel and as a product to improve the physical properties of soil. According to Poet, when operating in full capacity, ethanol produced at the Project Liberty plant will actually have a negative carbon footprint. To gather the necessary material to feed the $250 million facility, Roth has enlisted the aid of area corn farmers to bale 1/4 of the stover normally left in the field. Poet research shows this equals about 1 ton of material per acre.
The literature we've reviewed says that on a given cornfield, you can take approximately 25% of the above ground residue and leave 75% on the ground for future years, for soil organic carbon, for nutrient replacement, etc.
Roth had no problem finding 85 farmers to sign 4-year contracts obligating them to collect, store, and transport something that used to be considered a waste product. He actually was forced to turn producers away. To encourage farmers to capitalize on these next-generation fuels, Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack recently unveiled the Biomass Crop Assistance Program, or BCAP. The matching program will pay up to 75% of the cost to produce, store, and transport the alternative feedstock.
And I believe the need for energy security, a cleaner environment, and better economic opportunity in rural America make the case for action now.
The idea was not lost on Myron Brune, who grows corn on 1,200 acres with his brother near the Emmitsburg plant. Brune sees the BCAP payments as a good incentive to get involved in the biofuels industry.
It's an investment to buy all the equipment, but there should be some return on the investment. We don't farm a lot, and if you can put a little more in your pocket by the end of the year, and it's progress.
Between the payments from Poet and the reimbursements from BCAP, Brune says he can afford the $75,000 investment he's already made in a new baler and a lowboy trailer for hauling the 1-ton round bales to the plant. Poet is paying Brune $45 per ton. 25 miles away, Dick Nelson is using experimental equipment supplied by Poet to gather square bales.
We've been cussing the corn stalks for years because we have so much cover on the ground. Now we can take off a ton or whatever, and it won't affect the erosion or anything. So it's a win-win proposition, I think.
For a square bale of biomass, Poet is paying $65 per ton. The first pass collection method has its advantages and disadvantages. For Poet, less dirt gets into the bales. For the producer, more fuel is consumed while combining. Nelson also likes the idea of BCAP helping him pay for new equipment.
It's a great program. They talk about grinding up trees and switchgrass. Well, we got all kinds of cobs here, so it's going to work, I think. If they can make fuel out of it, we can do it. So I'm excited about it, yep.
For Poet and the farmers gathering biomass, the dream remains the same: reducing America's dependence on foreign oil.
With the advent of cellulosic ethanol, not only from corn residue, but also from switchgrass and bagasse and other materials, we will get to the point where ethanol can replace the 60% of the petroleum that we currently import. And if we use 40% of petroleum that we currently have domestically, and then the other 60% is ethanol, we are now energy independent.
For Market to Market, I'm David Miller.
You can watch this story again on our Farmweek website, farmweek.msucares.com. We'll have links there to the Market to Market site where you can also watch the story and read the script if you like. We'll also have a link to Poet's Project Liberty website. Once again, go to farmweek.msucares.com.
And Leighton, of course, we've got a couple of next generation biofuel producers that are setting up now in Mississippi. One is going to make crude oil. We'll be doing it using wood waste.
That's right.
And another is, I believe it's ethanol using what cellulose would have gone into a landfill. Instead, will be going to the plant to make ethanol with. So we should have some reports here in the next year or so on progress being made here in Mississippi in that next generation area. Well, it's time for today's trivia quiz on Farm Week, and it's about cotton acreage in Mississippi. It's been down in recent years, so here's our question. What is the most amount of cotton ever harvested in Mississippi? Is the answer 3,600,000 acres? Is it 4,160,000 acres, 5,220,000 acres, or 6,100,000 acres? I'll have the answer after today's Southern Gardening segment.
Do you think your landscape has little to offer as we head into winter? Well, in this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman will show us how to establish some cool season garden interest without the flowers to distract us.
Today I'm at the home of Nina and Charles Rivenberg. Their backyard is an attractive example of the landscape transitioning into winter. All throughout the garden there are sculptures that help to add interesting character. This large ceramic frog is sitting in a pond of liriope with the red and green oxalis in the foreground. The yellow and black pansies add winter color. Though the weather is getting cooler, the garden still has a tropical feel. Elephant ear and green autumn fern have a warm feeling. The gold dust acuba and the large leaves of deeply lobed Japanese fatsia seem to be making this rooster crow. There are splashes of color available, like this planting of late-season Betty Boop floribunda rose. And this garden angel watches over the back trail of late-season hosta, ajuga, coral begonia, and mondo grass. Leslie Ann Sasanqua camellia provides good fall and winter color. The pink double flowers shine against an evergreen background. There are lots of textural contrasts. The dried flowers of Mississippi medallion winter, limelight hydrangea, and the foliage and red berries of nandina add interest. This purple-leafed loropetalum adds color in the cool season. The feathery dark pink flowers are a welcome sight. Remember, the cool season doesn't mean no color or interest in your landscape. I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
And Gary says that the cool season doesn't have to mean no color and no interest if you do a little work.
Well, it's time for the answer to today's trivia quiz on Farm Week. It's about the most acres of cotton ever harvested in Mississippi in 1 year. The records at the U.S. Department of Agriculture go back to 1928. The USDA says the answer is 4,160,000 acres. That occurred in 1930. The state average yield that year, a whopping 169 pounds per acre, the lowest on record. We're going to pause now for a break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll have the calendar and one more story for you. It's been around so long, we don't necessarily think it's unique, but the Farm Aid concert celebrated 25 years this fall. We'll look back at where it started and where it is today.
Each year, many Mississippians are seriously injured or killed when farm tractors overturn. One cause of these accidents is improper hitching. If a tractor is hitched at any point above the drawbar, it can flip over backwards. Never hitch a tractor using the bar between the three-point hitch upper and lower links or at the top link attachment point. The stationary drawbar is the only safe location for tractor hitching. A message from the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Well, before we get back to the last story, let's look at the Farm Week calendar here and coming up in the new year. Well, if you're involved in fruit or vegetable production or rural tourism, a big meeting is coming up January 13th and 14th in Natchez, Mississippi. Mississippi fruit and vegetable growers will host their annual conference and trade show. In addition, the Mississippi Agritourism and Gulf South Blueberry Growers Associations will meet as well. takes place at the Natchez Convention Center. The registration is $90. A one-day pass is $65. We'll have links on the Farmweek website to help you register. The Delta Ag Expo is Tuesday and Wednesday, January 18th and 19th in Cleveland, Mississippi at the Bolivar County Expo Center. Looking into February, the Northeast Mississippi Fruit and Vegetable Conference and Trade Show takes place Friday, February 11th at the Lee County Agri Center in Verona. Registration is $10 and that includes lunch. Contact Scott Cagle at the Chickasaw County Extension Service office to register or be part of the trade show. Go to our Farmweek website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this Farmweek snapshot.
It has been said that America was forced to endure the Great Recession in large part because Wall Street failed to learn the lessons taught during the farm crisis of the 1980s. In both periods, debt grew because of low interest rates and bankers' willingness to loan large amounts of money on asset value instead of cash flow. The agricultural economy withered under its debt load back in the 1980s, and the housing bubble burst in 2008. But some things are different this time around. Most rural debt-to-equity ratios are nowhere near the level seen in the 1980s, and favorable commodity prices have boosted net farm income considerably in 2010. But that didn't stop a key agricultural ambassador from taking his show on the road again in October as Willie Nelson staged his 25th Farm Aid concert. Market to Market's Laurel Bauer-Bergmeyer reports.
25 years ago, American farmers faced a crisis the likes of which hadn't been seen since the Great Depression. The good times of the 1970s had given way to low crop prices, falling land values, high interest rates, and mountains of debt in the 80s. For many farm families, the situation was dire.
But I know I deserve some support because I have fed a world of people in 52 years.
In 1985, Willie Nelson called on his friends in music to organize a groundbreaking concert called Farm Aid to help a struggling rural America.
I had heard some rumors in Texas about some of the farmers and ranchers having a rough time, and I asked some of my friends around who were ranchers, farmers, and they said, well, it's really bad in the Midwest. It hadn't really got that bad here yet, but it's on the way. So we started talking about what we might do and call some attention to it and see if we could help the situation in some way. And so we did.
Thank you all very much, and welcome to Farm Aid, the concert for America.
The first Farm Aid took place in Champaign, Illinois on a rainy day in September of 1985. Along with help from fellow founding members John Mellencamp and Neil Young, Nelson put the concert together in just a few weeks.
It's rolling around the bend.
All told, 54 acts appeared before a crowd of 78,000 people, making the first Farm Aid the largest combined country and rock concert in U.S. history. It sparked a movement that continues to this day, and from it came the Farm Aid organization, which works year-round to help America's family farmers. Carolyn Mugar has been Farm Aid's executive director since the beginning.
Well, I don't think anybody could dip their foot into this without feel how fortunate they are to work with the people in the countryside that we work with. It's an extraordinary experience.
Hello, wherever you are, whoever you are, thank you for joining us at Farm Aid tonight.
Farm Aid celebrated its 25th anniversary in Milwaukee, Wisconsin this year. More than 35,000 fans filled Miller Park, home of the Brewers baseball team, on Saturday, October 2nd, to mark the historic event.
When the walls come crumbling down,
While the music at Farm Aid is the main attraction, concert days offer much more.
You folks here showed up on a cold day to help us support the family farmers. We showed up. This is what we need to be doing, and we need to keep doing it until somebody pays attention to us. And they will eventually, because we're not going anywhere.
The day begins with the Farm Aid press conference. It's described by staff as part pep rally and part teach-in. Artists and farmers challenge the nation's leaders and all Americans to take action.
In this big industrial farm era, if people are producing food for us with the sole goal of making money, and as much money as they can, and cut as many corners as they can, how can we assume as a society that they're going to produce the best food they can?
As we sit here today, we're losing farmland and we're losing our rural farmers, and we have to protect them, and a lot of them are in the crowd here today.
As the family farmer goes America. What do we deserve? We deserve clean food. How can we get clean food? By looking for it.
Wisconsin was chosen as the host state in part to draw attention to issues facing the dairy industry. For nearly 2 years, producers have been paid prices as little as half the cost of production. According to Farm Aid officials, family dairy farmers have lost upwards of $200 per month during the crisis on each cow they own, while the largest dairy processors have enjoyed record profits.
12,500 100-cow dairies is fundamentally different than 255,000 cow dairies, and you can't tell me otherwise. So we really need to work on this.
Well, don't forget to put your email on those when you turn it in, then they draw your name out.
Another key feature of Farm Aid is the Homegrown Village, where concert goers can meet family farmers and learn about the roots of their food. This year's Homegrown Village was bigger than ever, featuring more than 40 interactive exhibits from Wisconsin and various farm, food, and environmental organizations.
The last 4 years we've been having what's called homegrown concessions, and we've turned the food at the venue, at the place where we're having the concert, into food that is either locally grown, organically grown, humanely raised, any number of those qualifications, and that's what the food at these venues is.
Pork chop or the ham steak? All right. Okay, pork chop. We are the first local food vendor at Farm Aid, and so we'd like to think that we played, some small role in Farm Aid moving toward this local food, type of venue. And I think it's really important because lots of times we put, local family farm food into a little box, and there are certain places you can get it. You can get it at farmers markets, you can get it at local food grocery stores, and those are great, and we should support those efforts. But, Farm Aid really took on a venue that really, I would say, nobody thought could be done, and said, no, concert venues can be farmer-friendly, consumer-friendly, and, you can hear some good music, and you can eat some good, healthy food at a concert, and I think they're demonstrating that every year more and more.
Find something good to grow. Farmer working on the ground, yeah, homegrown's all right with me. Homegrown is the way it should be. Homegrown is a good thing. Plant that bell and let it ring. Will it?
For more than 2 decades, the concerts have been held all across the country, from the heartland to the deep south,
Did you see my baby?
and from the west coast to the eastern shores. Likewise, Farm Aid's artists come from all over the musical map. This year's lineup included Amos Lee, Band of Horses, Jamie Johnson, Jason Mraz, Lucas Nelson and the Promise of the Real, and Jeff Tweedy. The headliners were first-time Farm Aid performer Nora Jones, Kenny Chesney, Dave Matthews, Neil Young, John Mellencamp, and of course, Willie Nelson.
You can leave me a tip if you can, because I'm a shoe shop.
Every artist donates his or her performance and travel expenses to Farm Aid. 25 years after making its inaugural benefit, Farm Aid officials say there is still much to be done. The organization has grown to a staff of 9 along with its board of directors, including Nelson, Mellencamp, Young, and Matthews, who joined in 2001.
I don't know, I'm about half stubborn, I guess, and when I start something, I don't like to quit it, and I'm glad to see the Farm Aid organization feels the same way. Those guys over there are tough, and they fight the fight every day here and there all over the farm industry with the big guys and the little guys, and it's important that we stay with it because there's a lot of opposition to it from powerful people.
If you're interested in watching our story again, you can see it on our website, farmweek.msucares.com. We'll also have contact information there for the Farm Aid organization.
And Leighton, you know, I can remember when that started. I guess I've been around here too long. It could be.
Wasn't that long ago.
Well, we're still young at heart. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, it's the New Year's edition of Farm Week.
And we will be stepping back to the 2010 Dixie National Sale of Junior Champions. It is the pinnacle of the junior livestock show circuit in Mississippi.
We'll return to the Farm Aid concert one more time, see where the money goes that the concert generates.
Color in the landscape.
And in Southern gardening, bones, berries, and bark. This foundation makes for a great year-round landscape.
Well, for the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.